Everybody, we're going to open the meeting. Would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Good evening, and welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals, or ZBA, the April 7th, 2025 meeting. First, let me introduce the members of the ZBA present here this evening. Myself, Chairman Alan Donnelly, our Vice Chairman, Mr. Carl Finger, is with us. Our Secretary, regular member Commissioner, Mr. Elijah Hewling, is with us. Regular member Commissioner, Mr. Larry Rushmeyer, is with us. Alternate member Commissioner, Mr. Liam Ania, is with us. Alternate member Commissioner, Mr. Michael Barnes, is with us. And regular member Commissioner, Mr. Richard Briggs, is with us. Our excellent CEO, Mr. Fran Lally, is with us this evening. And our always, I think, perfect, again, wonderful recording secretary, Cassandra Varian, is with us this evening. Okay, the current agenda can be found here at the table or on the town website under board meetings. When we begin the public hearing, I will call each applicant one at a time. When I call the property address, please come forward, state your name and address for the record, and tell us about your appeal in detail. After, the secretary will read into the record any communications we've received in favor or opposed to the application. The chair will then entertain questions of clarification from board members concerning the application. We will then hear from those who wish to speak in favor of the application, followed by those who are opposed. Following each side of the question, the applicant will be allowed to make concluding remarks. After we've gone through all the cases on the agenda tonight, we will close the public portion of this meeting and will deliberate an open executive session. You must have at least 4 affirmative votes to have your appeal granted. The final decision may be in the form of approved as submitted, approved with stipulations, or disapproved. All questions and comments must be directed through the chair. Please be assured that everyone will be given the opportunity to speak. However, the board is most interested in hearing factual information relative to the application, and in view of time constraints placed upon us, we ask your indulgence in not reiterating comments previously presented. You're welcome to stay until the end of the meeting or contact the land use office in the morning. Okay, first thing on the agenda is a review of the March 3rd, 2025 minutes. I'd like to take a motion to approve those minutes, please.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. I have very, very little. Any discussion from anybody? Perfect again. Great job. Thank you very much. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, review correspondence. Anybody have anything on minutes, boards of other commissions, zoning and the wetlands planning? Anything? Me neither. All right, continue public hearings or non-public hearings. Our first public hearing is 20A Indian Trail, application Z-25-8, that's Jason Klein of Comedy Law, for Matthew and Deborah Wilcock, and that's an appeal of a cease and desist order. I believe we have some correspondence, Mr. Secretary.
Yes, sir. This is to Brookfield Zoning Board of Appeals, also Francis Lally, Zoning Enforcement Officer, regarding continuation of public hearing, 20A Indian Trail, Brookfield, Connecticut. Dear Mr. Lally and members of the Brookfield Zoning Board of Appeals, parentheses, the ZBA, I am writing to you to confirm that my client, the owners of the property, consent to the opening and immediate continuation of the public hearing regarding Z-25-8 on Monday, April 7th, 2025. As such, it is my understanding that no testimony or substantive discussion will take place on April 7th, and instead the hearing will be immediately continued to the ZBA's next meeting on Monday, May 5th, 2025. I kindly ask that the ZBA chair and or the zoning enforcement officer announce this continuation at your April 7th meeting, and that this announcement include the time and location of the May 5th meeting. Thank you for your time and attention regarding this matter. Sincerely, Jason A. Klein.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. All right, I'd like to take a motion to continue. Oh, yes, sir.
I was just saying, good evening, sorry.
Good evening, welcome to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Sorry about that.
Okay. Sorry about that. Counselor. All right, I'd like to take a motion to continue application Z-25-8-20 Indian Trail until our next meeting, May 5th, 2025 at 7 p.m., please.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
You are continued, sir.
Just will that meeting be at 100 Pocono in room 135?
Right here.
Right, yeah, right, right, so
Yes, sir.
Thank you so
very-
much, appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming in. Thank you for coming in. Have a good evening. Thank you. Okay. All right, moving on to our second application. Our second application is 91 Obtuse Road South. That's application Z-25-10. That is Heather Johnson for Roland Krantz residence. I hope I said the last name correct. Request for variance 3.4.A and B. That's a 2-foot 4-inch structure, is that correct? Yeah. To the front lot line. Would the applicant or proponent of the applicant please come forward? State your name and address for the record and tell us about your appeal in detail.
Hi, I'm Heather Johnson of Complete.
Well, welcome to the zoning board of appeals,
How are you?
ma'am.
I just have do you need these?
Sure, for the secretary, if you need them.
Yeah, I'll take them, I'll put them in the file.
Okay.
You can pass them down.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Please tell us about your appeal in detail.
So we're appealing to have the front porch with a portico with a roof over we're calling it the she shed, a structure that is
She shed?
the she shed.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
That is just a room about half that, and it's just for entrance because the grade in the front of, as you see, like I'm showing, there's a grade difference, and the grade drops drastically. I do have photos too.
This is from the barn to the she shed you're talking about.
Yeah, between
Yeah.
the two, yeah. So the tree shed is entirely in the front setback.
Yeah, that's what it's here too, so in between the barn here, the entranceway is significantly dropped, so there's no way to get in safely.
Yeah, it's,
And there's no way to fill it because then all the water will pitch to that barn, and that's why this is our issue, the hardship. So we're just looking to put a front porch with a front roof to cover the steps.
thank you. Do you have anything on that, sir?
I'm just the engineer, Mike Mizuko. I did the site plan for them. And really, as Heather just mentioned, that originally the grade kind of just shot down towards the barn. So they're trying to, get some positive drainage away from the barn. And it just, kind of made the situation a little bit worse. But you still needed steps even before we did anything.
Yeah.
There's still about a 30-inch difference between
The door.
the entry into the slab and the existing grade that was there previous to them doing any work.
Yeah,
But a couple more steps because of just to try to get the grade so it pitches away from the barn, because that's down gradient.
just the barn, just so you know, it was rotting from that, so that's why we're trying to now rectify this whole situation, so that there's no rot on the barn, it doesn't continue to do that, and there's no other way. And for safety reasons, really, there's no other way to get in besides having steps, I don't know how else you get into a building.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Any information?
I'm good unless
Yeah,
there's any
good
questions
questions.
from the members of the commission.
Or anything, one second.
Yep.
Mr. Secretary, do we have any correspondence on this?
No, sir.
Okay. Do any members have any questions for the applicant?
Okay.
Yeah, I just have a question. I just want to make sure I'm understanding what the ask is correctly.
Yep.
Because on the application, you say proposed dimension of 47.6.
We were just, so yeah, that's
It's a
from,
little weird the way to request it
Should-
because
Right.
it's like we're going,
Yeah, you're
We're
going
going
away.
away.
So that's why I just want to
Yeah.
make sure
It's a-
I
Yeah.
understand what's
it's a little
being
weird,
it's a
but
little
It's a
weird.
pre-existing non-conforming structure
Yes.
as it is.
Yes.
Yes.
Right, as I understand.
Yeah, well, so, and this, I might need some clarification from Fran. Since the structure is pre-existing non-conforming, this application is not for the structure itself.
No,
right? They
it's
don't
for the
need a
addition, the
variance.
steps and the.
Right, so in this case, the correct measurement isn't from the edge of the stone structure to the edge of the property, it's only
From
from
whatever
what's
is
being
it
built on.
on,
Which is like
correct.
2 feet, 6
Yeah.
inches.
Right, it's,
So it
Okay.
had to be
So-
there going back.
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay.
Because
it's-
most of the structure is already
already,
pre-existing.
exactly,
pre-existing,
it's
yeah.
been, yeah.
Right.
It's-
Yeah, that dimension is from the existing stone building out.
Yeah,
to the
that makes
front
sense.
side.
I just wanted to clarify, just because
Yeah.
it is a little
That's-
weird from what we're used to getting.
Yes.
So I just wanted to make sure I had that.
Right.
It's definitely different.
Understood.
Okay. So the entirety of the structure, even though it's in the front lot line,
Right.
is behind an existing structure?
Yes,
Okay, okay, just making sure.
it's an odd one.
Commissioner Barris? Commissioner
I
Barris?
have no questions.
Commissioner Lance? No questions. You have any questions?
The foundation on the existing barn, it's fieldstone, rubble,
No,
Post.
it's concrete, the foundation in there was a concrete slab. So it is.
so it's a slab, it's not a poured footing, so on and so forth.
Well, no, I think
I
there's a
think
footing.
footing.
Yeah, there's a
There's
footing.
footing.
I think there's probably a frost wall there too.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think there'd have to be.
Mhm.
And the two other structures next to this structure,
Yep.
one used to be, I don't know, it looks like a silo type,
It was, yep,
Structure.
it was, it's gone now.
That's one.
and there was another set of retaining walls there,
Yes, there was.
L-shaped.
There must have been some structure there at some point that was removed, I don't know when, has been there. You can see there was an existing foundation here,
Yep,
that's gone.
yep, I've walked the property.
Yes, I know.
So, that's gone as well, that
Yeah.
L-shaped.
So that's why, because the grade was so much higher, it was pitching in, so now if you actually go back out there, there is nothing's really pitching into that building anymore.
Pitching into the
So
existing
it,
barn structure.
no barn and into this building, there was like if you remember the well house, there was like a hump that it kind of went down
Yep.
and in. That is all now nicely graded. Trying to preserve the structures as best as possible and making sure there's no issues with water.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Commissioner Neal? Mr. Secretary?
The stone building in front right now it's just empty right now, and you're planning on building the.
Oh, no, it's renovated. We had a full building permit already. It's all renovated inside.
Okay.
They just needed something to get in it.
Yeah, we just wanted to get in it. We didn't realize it was that close to that setback.
Just a couple of quick questions. Thank you very much for allowing me to go out there and look at it. I may ask you to verify a couple things in the map.
Correct.
Do you know what year that original structure was built? It's gotta be 100 years old, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it has to be.
Because of the foundation.
Early 1900s, what they were saying.
Early
I
1900s.
think the barn was in the 40s, but this pre-exists the barn, that front building.
Okay, can I come forward and just let me know if these dimensions sound correct to you? So I went out there and I looked at it, and it's actually, the building's slightly off. It's 28.6 on one side and 29 feet on the
Yeah.
other. But you're 19.6 from the front property line, and then I calculated about 18 feet to the edge of the road. Another
Okay.
18 feet there. Does that sound about right?
I can get
No
a scale.
question.
Yeah.
No, rough is okay.
Yeah, you're probably a little bit less than that front setback.
Okay,
Yeah, so you said 18, it might be like 17.
17.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on that. So it's roughly 37 feet off the edge of the road, and then you go back to the backside where you want to put the stairs, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So you got that other 29 feet there. Okay. My next question is, would you consider this an expansion of a pre-existing non-conforming, or actually bringing a non-conforming kind of into conforming? If that makes sense to you.
I don't think it would be either.
Yeah, it's
Just technically, wouldn't we bring it in the conforming if we approved it?
You would be,
Yeah,
give
it's
them
not-
granting
You can say
access.
that about any,
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
application.
Okay.
I mean, I guess if it's,
they're not gonna do anything other to this building.
Yeah,
This
no.
is, they just want to be able to get into it
Okay.
safely.
yeah.
They're-
Yes, safety
Right.
is
Right.
one of the
That's
hardships.
Yep.
Okay. And then that angle coming off the back of there, I mean, it's a lot dug out, I don't know, 45, 50, something, it's pretty steep on the back, heading towards the barn, that angle.
Oh,
Would you-
yeah,
would you-
right now.
What would you guess? 45, 50 degrees?
Oh, it's probably, yeah,
Okay,
30, 40 degrees.
thank you very much. Thank you very much. Any other commissioners have any further questions? Any further questions? Okay. At this time, I'd like to ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak in favor of the application. Hearing none. At this time, I'd like to ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to this application. Hearing none. You both have the final concluding remarks if you like. Anything you'd like to say?
I think we're all good. There's
Good?
nothing more to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, at this time, I'd like to take a motion to close application Z-25-10. Do I have a second? Close public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Okay. Moving on to our third application. Okay. All right. Our next application is, application Z-25-11, 30 Arrowhead Road, Richard Sosa, request for a variance 3.5 and 1.6, a 1-foot-5 structure to the right sideline and vertical expansion of a existing non-conforming garage. Could the applicant please come forward, state your name and address for the record, sir?
Richard Sosa, 30 Arrowhead Road.
Welcome to the zoning board of appeals, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so, I'm trying to make this as short as possible. There's a little bit of history.
Take your time, sir.
I applied for a building permit to do a complete renovation of the house and also to do a vertical expansion of the existing garage. When I submitted the 2018 survey, it turns out that the overhang of the existing garage, as shown on this one, should I present it here?
Absolutely, sir.
So the corner, this is the front of the house, and this corner here, it turns out that it doesn't meet the
10 foot.
the 10-foot. So it's shy by about 6 inches. And it's not the entire overhang of the existing building, it's only this little sliver or wedge, if you want to call it. So I believe that garage was built in the 80s. The house was built in the 40s. And somewhere in the records, it says something about a variance. So there may have been an existing variance. I couldn't find it. I don't know if you saw it.
I can ask Mr. Lally, do you remember seeing anything, an old variance on there?
I do not.
I don't
no.
either, but
Okay.
we could always double check if we had to, sir, in the
Okay.
lawyer's office.
So the existing garage overhang, what I wanted to do was to expand vertically, not change the footprint of the garage. So when that came up, that was rejected for me to be able to expand vertically because of that non-conformance. So I had a surveyor come out again, just to verify not only the overhang, but I wanted to know, to make sure that the building itself met the setback requirement. So he did come out, and this is the letter that was sent out. So the corner of the garage does meet the requirement by about a ½ inch or so. So it's only the overhang. So then I went back to the buildings department, or to enter zoning, to see if they would allow me to do the vertical, the second story, without the overhang, only so that I can continue building the structure. So that was approved. So they approved the building without this little sliver until I had.
That wedge.
That little wedge, until I come here and request for a variance for that. So in essence, I'm asking for a variance of something that's pre-existing and just raising it to the new elevation of that second story, but not increasing it at all. It's just maintaining the existing overhang, which is not conforming. That's what I'm requesting. And if I have to build it without that little wedge, obviously it's gonna look funny. But it's also not going to protect from the elements, the siding and everything else to prolong the life of the existing, or the new structure, when it's built. So that's why I'm requesting for this piece, that overhang to be approved as pre-existing, and then new approval for the variance.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Mr. Secretary, I think we have some correspondence.
Dated April 4th, 2025. To whom it may concern, my name is Stephen Palizzi, and I live at 13 Arrowhead Road, Brookfield, with my wife, Antoinette Telben. We live directly across the street from the subject property. We are aware that Richard Sosa and Lillian Vecchioli are improving their home at 30 Arrowhead Road and are planning to add a second story to their garage. Richard also informed us that part of the addition would be constructed within the 10-foot setback requirement per Brookfield zoning regulations. As we understand it, a part of the new construction that would violate the 10-foot setback is a portion of the soffit on the right side of the property. We believe that granting them a variance would allow them to build a more architecturally appealing structure and therefore support the granting of a variance. Sincerely, Stephen and Antoinette.
Thank you, Mr.
I just want to add that
Yes, sir.
Stephen is also the board member of the association. So he did discuss it with the association, and they were all in agreement that it would detract from the beauty of.
You didn't happen to get any correspondence on that, did you?
On
Like an email or anything that he discussed in? It's okay.
an email from Steve?
Well, yeah,
No.
okay,
No.
the association, okay. That's all right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Do any commissioners have any questions?
Yeah, I had a couple of questions.
Commissioner Barnes?
So as I understand it, the roof on the expanded part is going to have the same footprint per se as the lower roof?
Yes,
And that's what you're looking for, is to get that variance on
Correct.
that top?
correct.
Okay. So,
I'm
No.
sorry, the overhang on the first floor is going to be removed, and then it's just going to be raised, so.
oh, okay, so it's going to be moved up,
Right.
right, okay. I see. So it was an existing non-conforming structure, but you were able to get a building permit to expand the existing non-conforming.
Well,
So, which is a little confusing, because usually if a non-conforming, you can't get a permit to
right,
expand it.
so I can explain.
So I was a little confused on that.
So when I got the surveyor back out to verify that the structure itself is conforming, then I
Oh,
changed.
I understand. So since you're gonna move the old non-conforming,
Right,
you're
now
gonna
the
ask
structure-
for a new one for the, okay,
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay,
And the building permit that was issued was for the renovations of the existing house until we came back in and we decided that we weren't gonna do the second floor. If it didn't conform, if it was denied tonight, you wouldn't do
Right.
the overhang on it. Okay, so that's all.
All right, thank you.
It was like two
Sure.
parts to it. So.
Commissioner Briggs?
I have no questions.
I'm all good.
Explain that again, Fran.
When the application originally came in, I met with the applicant himself and the building department, and we said he wanted to do it in two phases because he needed to go to ZBA. So we granted myself and building the approval to do, because he's doing interior work on the house, new windows, as phase one of the house. Phase two was gonna be the expansion of the second floor of the garage. If he wasn't approved for the variance, then he wasn't gonna be able to do the overhang. The overhang was gonna be removed, and that's where it is right now. It's in phase two, basically. If that makes sense.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Secretary? Commissioner Nian? Yes, sir.
When I,
What?
Go
No, you
go
have-
ahead. I'll go after you.
when I looked online on the GIS, I tried to get a measure of the corner of the soffit to the property line. And it might be wrong, I'm not, questioning what the surveyor did, but it looked like it was about 27 feet from. this-
GIS isn't always
You
accurate.
can't go by
right?
GIS.
Yeah, it's better to do the GIS.
The survey
It's
is
kind of- it can be
A2
off.
survey and it's stamped.
Okay,
Yeah, That's the most accurate.
all right.
Commissioner Rushmeyer.
Isn't that true? Have you had an architect try to kind of redo that roof line with an offset overhang on that second-story structure? So the appearance would be, so visually you would still have that overhang, but it would be offset from the face of the building.
Right, so the first floor, he did look at it, so the first floor is existing.
Yep,
I'm just adding to the first floor. If I don't have an overhang, then or I recess, is that the
Correct.
proper- Right, so if I recess the second story, and then I put the overhang on the second story, it'll protect the second story, but we won't have the protection on the first floor for the first story, because the corner of the building is 10 foot and a half inch, I think it is. So by putting the overhang and being.
so the drip line would then be within inches of the existing structure.
Right, so if I brought the second story in, that would be fine, I would have the proper soffit or the overhang, but the first floor, I would only have a quarter, I would not even be able to put a gutter, because I believe, correct
That's
me if I'm
part
wrong.
of it, yep.
That would be counted as well.
Correct.
Right, so that would, yes, I would not be able to protect the first floor, which is gonna be existing, we're not changing the first floor structure.
Thank you.
I just have a couple quick questions, and thank you very much for allowing me to go out there. All right, I think you explained the hardships in detail, which was the pre-existing non-conforming. Is that the hardship? Can you explain the hardships one more time for me, sir?
Yeah, so the existing non-conforming was not allowing me to, the first phase, not allowing me to do the second story at all unless I remove that. And if I remove that, then I'm not protecting the first floor, the first story. So that's why I would like to get that extension, just to, so the hardship would be not having it. Forgetting about aesthetics, because I know that's not important, but the most important thing is to have that protection on the side.
Yep. Next question is, could you explain how it's not a self-induced hardship? Meaning, it was caused by something other than the land?
It was caused by whoever built the garage in the 1980s. There's an existing, I believe there's a permit, I didn't even check for that, I'm sorry. But yeah, that hardship was created back then, so I'm just.
Prior to your ownership?
Prior, yes.
Okay. All right. All right. I think we're done with that. Any further questions? Okay. At this time, thank you, sir.
Okay.
I'd like to ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak in favor of the application. We know you're in favor.
Aye.
Hearing none, at this time, I'd like to ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to this application. Hearing none. Mr. Sosa, you have the final concluding remarks, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I obviously, two reasons, protection of the first floor and aesthetically for to conform to the rest of the houses that are in the surrounding area. So that's it, nothing more to add.
One quick question
Sure.
before we close. So if I take the calculations here, that amount, because it's the wedge, not sure the significance of it, that's 13 feet 1 inches,
Yeah,
right? That's 13.
right, so I would have to.
That's the only part of it, just because of how the structure sits, that would
Right.
be in non-conformance.
Yeah, because the property line is at an angle, so that would be the only, so if I were to cut this piece off, everything would be conforming.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do you want this?
I think we all have copies, sir.
Okay.
You can have that.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to take a motion to close application Z-25-11.
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving on to our believe it's our final application. All right, moving on to our final application. Our final application is Z-25-12, 30 Brookfield Meadows. That's Eric Ketlin. Ketlin, thank you, sir. I apologize. This is a request for variance 3.5, a 15-foot structure to the left sideline. And I believe this is a 12 by 24 shed on the property.
Correct.
The applicant, which you're here, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Eric Kettner, 30 Brookfield Meadows, and this is my wife, Caitlin.
Welcome to the zoning board of appeals. Tell us about your appeal in detail.
So we are looking for a 15-foot to the left side yard structure, variance to install a 12 by 24 shed. The reasoning we're looking for this is, the variance specifically is because the lot is undersized for the zone. It's only 28,000 square feet, where the minimum lot size is 40,000 square feet in the R40 zone. Currently, it's a triangular shaped area where we're looking to install the shed, and which is causing it to be difficult in that location. If we were to install a shed in the right rear property, that's where our septic tank is, and it is pumped up to the rear of the yard, and the leaching fields are also posing an issue. We have a existing shed that's in the similar area, which opens towards the proposed area for the shed, which would cause issues with us getting stuff in and out of that existing shed. And if we were to install it in the rear middle of our yard, there was a previous patio in that location, which we're looking to install a replacement patio in that same location.
Thank you. Yeah, would you like to say anything?
Oh, no, he's got it.
Mr. Secretary, is there any correspondence?
No, sir.
All right. This time, do any commissioners have any questions for Pete?
Yeah, I had a question.
Commissioner Burns.
What was the reasoning by putting it out far in the back end of the property instead of expanding your existing shed?
The existing shed we have there is some sloping terrain in that area where it is currently built up. There's no real way to do that without significant machinery to move it around. The area where we're looking to do it is much more level and flat for the larger size shed.
Okay.
Commissioner Burns?
Oh, I did have one other thing. Was that property upzoned at any time?
I believe it was, yes.
What if it was an R40, what was it before?
But no, I think it was
Looks
always
like
an
an
R40.
Was it always an R40?
He's got 27,878 square feet in an R40, so it's
Yeah.
definitely up
So
some.
it definitely doesn't meet the requirements for our.
Yeah, so the reason I'm asking the question is that would represent, it could represent a hardship.
Mhm.
If it was upzoned, if it was previously a lower zone, then you would have different calculation for your setbacks. So if it had been an R15, then the setback would only be 15 feet. That's why I'm asking the question. Okay, thank you.
So this is the location of the proposed,
You can come forward, Sean.
Yes, that's the location of the proposed shed.
and why couldn't it be moved further, sort of in a southeasterly direction?
So our septic field is right in this area here.
Here?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And we're trying, if we get it much closer to this shed here, the opening is on this side, we're gonna have difficulties getting stuff in and out of that shed.
And what about moving in that, and sort of in that direction?
So in this area here is our well, but in that other area, the terrain starts to slope a little bit more.
Okay.
Vice Chairman.
I'm all set.
Good.
Commissioner Russell.
Okay.
I had the same comment as Commissioner Barnes. It looks like the dimensions conform to an R15, and if the minimum requirement for that on the left side is 15 feet, then that would make sense.
I had a couple of quick questions for you, Mr. Cannon. Thanks a lot for letting me go over your house. All right, I'll have you come forward and just verify a couple things on here. I drew a map, if any of it makes sense to you. This is where you want to put the new shed, which is in the northwestern corner of the property, and that's the shape of the property.
Yes.
I approximated, it's not that bad of a slope, but it's about 10% slope downhill. This is all open area here, but relatively flat, and that's the well here, it's about 93 feet from the edge of the road.
Okay.
Does that look
Yeah, seems
roughly?
about right.
Okay, all right. Beehives, chicken coop, got that all in there. Septic system approximately there. All right. We already answered the one question, which is this a pre-existing non-conforming lot in an R40, which you have 27,878.4 square feet. So it is a pre-existing non-conforming upzone lot,
Okay.
okay? I was asking you that.
Yeah.
Okay. Last question, almost last question. Is it possible to slightly, just a little bit, slightly move the shed from where you have it? And I know you kind of have a unique shape of property there because of the triangle. But move it slightly to the east, okay? From right where you have it now, maybe about 5 feet. Therefore lessening the variance request from 15 feet to 10 feet. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I think that's a possibility.
Okay, 5 feet is probably doable.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And I think you already told us the hardships. So, that's it, any question? No? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Any other questions? Okay. At this time, I'd like to ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak in favor of the application. Hearing none. At this time, I'd like to ask if there's anyone here that would like to speak in opposition to this application. Hearing none. Mrs. Getman, you have the final concluding remarks. Anything you'd like to say?
I would just really like the shed.
Thank you, Ms.
It would be nice to get a car in the garage, you know, especially in the wintertime.
Yeah, that's the reason for the shed. We're looking to store a tractor that's currently in our garage. And that's why
And it's a
the size
pain
of
in the
it.
winter when you have to snowplow, and he's a fire marshal, so he's never home, and I have to do it by myself. Kind of hard. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you very much. All right. At this time, I'd like to take a motion to close the public hearing on application Z-25-12, please. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye? Aye. Okay. All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go into what's called closed deliberations. It's open to the public view. We basically discuss all the applications amongst ourselves. We'll come to a decision tonight. If you'd like to stay until the end and find out, please feel free. Otherwise, you can contact Mr. Lally in the morning. We asked everybody not to speak out while we're talking.
I'm gonna make a motion for my usual bathroom break.
Absolutely. Do I have a second? Second. All right, we're gonna take all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
All right, quick 5-minute recess. It is 7:39, call it 44, 85. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Anybody can take a break if they have to.
So do you know any epoxy guys?
I do.
Yeah, you shoot me an email or something.
Yeah, shoot me emails, a couple.
Yeah.
Let's have the cars and getting new ones?
When is
No,
the
I
sun
didn't get
gonna
any.
come up? That's what I want.
Not yet.
That's like depressing.
I thought that was gonna be one of the first things.
I'll
you
need
did.
another garage.
Maybe.
I'll have to have you back.
We're
I need
expanding.
some sun. How
I'll
many
be
days
back
has it
in
been?
here.
4 or 5? It's been, it's rain.
Well, we just
it's
squeezed it
rain.
in, so we didn't have to
I
come.
just saw it for like an hour yesterday.
Exactly.
Yeah, we were within like 6 inches.
Oh,
I
that
think
was-
on
Those
that
two in
corner.
northern Vermont had
We literally
86
pitched
days
tucked.
of
I
continuous,
remember.
Perfect.
Yeah.
In there.
Continuous what?
86 days of continuous snow. Holy crud. Now when it snows, sometimes it's snowing all day and never accumulates, but it's by definition
What
snow.
part of Vermont?
J Peak, we're about
Mm.
15 minutes from the Canadian border.
Oh, way up to the top. Is that anywhere near Smuggler's Notch?
Yep. Notch, Stowe, everything is,
Smuggler's Notch is where the last time I went skiing, when I got a concussion. And haven't been on ski since. That was the last time. I had a great time until I got a concussion.
How's Gigi doing?
You
Good?
never go concussion when you're younger with your buddies that are great skiers and they take you down a black dime or whatever it was, because I didn't make it.
He called us, but I don't know if he did it.
No, he never put the
No, he's
garage.
back.
He didn't?
Good thing one of the friend's wives was a nurse.
I think he's waiting, I think
Oh, yeah.
it was just a money thing on
She's
how
like-
much he got from the from
I
the
think you have a
insurance
concussion.
on the
I'm gonna
house.
keep an eye on it.
Wasn't
I feel
exactly
really
sure
tight. No, you
what
can't go to
he was
sleep.
gonna get.
Yeah.
So I think they ended up spending the money
Yeah.
in the
No, it's just
house
thrown out.
itself rather than the garage.
Well, I lost
Got
everything,
it.
my skis, poles,
Got it,
hat,
yeah.
So they have no
gloves.
garage.
I lost it all.
What year was this, in the 80s, 90s?
That's what it is.
Late eighties.
Yeah. I mean, I like the house better than
It
the
was
old
bad.
house.
Yeah,
There's no garage.
no, there isn't, you're right, 'cause I remember walking
My
in.
favorite part of skiing was really going up to the
I
top
need
of the
6
mountain. You
bays,
just
he's got
feel
none.
like because it's so peaceful for skiing.
That's how we are, we got another truck and we're like, I don't wanna go, we're going to work back, I don't wanna go.
Very nice bathroom.
Okay, so we're gonna bring the meeting back to order. It is 7:40 PM. All right, so once again, we're gonna go into closed deliberations right now. All right, and our first deliberations is going to be on application Z-25-10. That is the Bob and Heather Johnson residence, and that is 91 Obtuse Road South. And this is proposed activity is a 4x8 front portico, not patio, portico. Present dimension, they have a 4x8 here and there. Required dimension is 50 feet, proposed dimension is 47 feet 6 inches. So the variance requested is 47.6 to 50 feet. I think we have to be a little more specific on that.
Well, it'd be the difference, it'd be.
2'6".
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the variance requested is really that?
2 foot
Yeah,
6
it's really
inches.
only, it's only 2.5 foot variance.
2 foot 6 inches.
2'6" inches.
In the opposite direction.
Yeah, as well.
Well, if it's point
Is it
six,
0.6
no,
or is
she
it?
said 6 inches here, so,
It's gotta be two, yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it's-
4'6".
oh, yeah.
right?
Well,
Was it
there? Right there.
6 inches.
I'd like to take a motion to approve this application as submitted.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I mean, I think this is pretty straightforward. This clearly isn't the intent of having a setback requirement. This goes completely in the opposite direction, so I see no reason not to approve it. They're not encroaching further on the setback. They're moving away from the setback towards the main property, so I really don't see a reason.
This the hardship, safety, obviously,
yeah,
topography
and-
because of the angle.
Yeah,
The
being able
steepness.
to use the pre-existing building.
Yeah, it
It's a
makes it
safety
more
issue.
functional.
Yeah,
I think I agree with
increases the
that.
functionality and safety.
Commissioner Briggs?
Yeah, no, I think it makes it more functional, there's a perfectly reasonable step to take, so to speak, yeah.
Commissioner Rushing?
I'll start by saying that I'm in favor of it. Okay, it's not gonna detract from any other property, it's not impacting anybody else's property and so on. But it is non-conforming, and we're making it more non-conforming, technically.
Technically.
So, but,
It's 100-plus-year-old structure.
yeah,
I understand.
I've walked the property, it's nice to see it being renovated and somebody doing with it without knocking it down, so.
Are we technically making it more non-conforming? Because right now it's non-conforming in that the structure itself is about 19 feet from the property line, and that distance is remaining the same.
The act of, you're
Not-
splitting the distance, you're going away instead of into,
Right,
I get all
we're not
that.
getting closer.
Yeah,
It's not more
I get it.
non-conforming. It's
Well, this is like
technically the same
medieval
amount.
scholarship, you know, it's like how many angels can you, I mean, yeah, technically,
The
it
structure,
becomes
yeah.
additionally non.
It becomes additionally
Right.
non-conforming, but it doesn't get any closer to the property
Yeah,
line than it is
exactly.
currently. So it's kind of the same.
But if we did approve it, it would be bringing a pre-existing non-conforming into conforming, right, Frank? You think, kinda?
It would make it less non-conforming.
Less,
It could. Or make it the same non-conforming, that's what I'm.
I don't know,
It's not really,
Mr. Secretary.
I'm not a lawyer.
yeah.
Yeah, I think everything's been said.
Okay. Everybody ready to vote?
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I agree with everybody here, and I obviously see a safety issue, and I do see a topography issue with the back part of that.
Get a ladder.
Are you ready to vote, sir?
Yes.
Ready to vote, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. All those in favor of approving application Z-2510, and that is the Bob and Heather Johnson residence, 91 Obtuse Road South. This is a 4x8 front portico. I want to make sure I get this right.
Actually, it's Roland Krantz is the
Krantz.
landowner.
Okay, thank you. Roland Krantz residence, thank you. And that's a 4x8 front portico. Required dimension is 50 feet. Proposed dimension is 47.6. So the variance requested, that would be 2 foot
2 foot 6 inches.
2 foot 6 inches, that's correct. And that is zoning regulation 3.4A and B. Say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Motion passes. Congratulations. Okay, on to our next application. I would like to take a motion to approve application Z-25-11, that's Richard Sosa residence, 30 Arrowhead Road. This proposed activity is a horizontal extension of a roof overhang corner. And that is, required dimension is 10 feet. And that's, okay, and they're in an R7 zone now. Boy, it's tough to read. 8.5 feet of, this is proposed dimension, 8.5 feet of roof overhang. So variance requested would be 1 foot 5, or it's not technically
It's
1.
1.5, right?
Yes, it's 1 foot 6 inches if you're doing it by inches, correct, Brian? 1 foot 6 inches. And that is Article 1-6 and 3-5. I'd like to take a motion to approve as submitted, please.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. This is the little wedge.
I see no problem. Just extend the roof.
Okay.
It's a couple inches. I don't really think it's changing much of anything. I understand I see the red lines in the design, but it's part of the roof, not even the entire roof. So for 2 inches, I go for it.
We did have correspondence in favor of the person I believe that lived across the street, right?
Yeah, even the correspondence, I think, was more about them building up, not even allowing them to keep 2 inches of their roof, so. Which, I mean, it's nice.
And we're not making it more non-conforming, it's the same non-conformity, just 1 story higher. So it's not an expansion of, it's an expansion of a non-conforming building vertically, but not in a way that makes the property more non-conforming than it is currently. So I don't see any harm in approving it because we're not increasing the footprint of the property.
And what do you see as the hardship on the property?
Pre-existing
Pre-existing
non-conforming structure.
non-conforming, okay.
I mean, if we wanted to get into the same kind of issue that Larry was raising, you could say, well, the property was non-conforming with the overhang, which would mean they couldn't do anything with it without getting a variance from us. So they removed the overhang, now made it conforming, and now they can get approval to build above because it's conforming, and now they're gonna add back the non-conforming part that would have prevented them from building up in the first place.
Yeah, that's
So,
true.
but
Which is that 13-foot, 1-inch wedge.
And it's a self-induced hardship.
in that,
I did see that part of it. That's where I was gonna ask you next.
but it's so de minimis.
There are no de minimis exceptions. We've taken a class on that one.
Yeah.
I understand.
Well, in this case, it's, I mean, there is a hardship though in that yeah, it's de minimis, but there's hardships outside of it being de minimis, and that's that
Pre-existing non-conforming.
pre-existing non-conforming, the applicant saying that if they didn't have that, that it could risk damage to the structure due to water runoff.
Water runoff, you don't have your gutters and
Yeah,
stuff
that,
like
it,
that.
yeah, that, should- you could, yeah, to build the extra story without it could be damaging to the structure.
I could go either way, but I'd like to
Yeah,
get,
but that's not a zoning issue, that's an architectural and a design issue. So if we're a zoning board, we're not building the structure they are. If there's a water and a drip line issue, then somebody else other than this board should be addressing those kinds of issues.
I have a question. When you were talking to him about the, basically redesigning the angle of it, I didn't really understand that. Could you explain that to me?
So set the upper story back so that that drip line is within inches of the lower
It
structure.
meets the setback.
So it meets the setback. And do some sort of, again, I'm not an engineer or an architect, but there are ways to mitigate that problem, the drip and the splash.
Okay, by setting that back there. You have anything further? Mr. Reschano? This is a tough one for me. But I do, I mean, I'll speak if you want.
Yeah, I mean, I've said, I think, everything I have to say on it.
I mean, I do think it's self-induced, obviously, and there is no de minimis exceptions. If you make an exception on this, I know that each application is the same. If there wasn't another option, like Commissioner Rushmeyer just said, by reconfiguring the roof, I'm not an engineer, but it's possible, it's doable to do it and still have exactly what they want. If there was another option, I don't know.
But I guess, who's to say that? Mr. Reschmeyer just said that we're not the engineering board, and he's not an engineer, and I'm not an engineer, and you're not an engineer, and we might think that there's a possible way, but perhaps that should be, if there's a way to fit it in the setback, perhaps that's a question better left to an engineer, and not for us to conjecture that we think it's possible when we're not engineers.
But you don't, you don't think it's self-induced and you don't think.
Well, because the structure existed before the applicant bought the place. The structure may have existed before the structure may have been built when it was conforming, and then the setbacks changed.
But then wanting to put the second floor on it, needing that wedge.
It's
that's
not changing,
self-
but it's not changing the property as it it's not changing the, footprint of the property as it currently stands. He's not expanding on the nonconformity. He's maintaining the current nonconformity. If he was asking for more, I would say that's self-induced.
What about the de minimis exception, which is, there is no exception?
Well, I'm not making my decision based on de minimis exception,
It's
despite
the
the fact
pre-existing
it's
non-conforming.
pre-existing non-conforming, and he is not expanding on the current on the current footprint. That's what I'm basing my decision on, personally.
Commissioner Rushmeyer?
I'm good.
Commissioner Briggs?
I could go either way, I'm so stuck.
I'm exactly the same way. I think I agree with the vice chairman on this one, although I understand Commissioner Rushmeyer too. I could definitely go either way, but I think I agree with him because it was a pre-existing non-conforming, and I don't know for a fact if there's another way to do that. Not that, that's not our job to figure that out.
Right, there could be there could theoretically be a way to make it fit, but I'm not an engineer, and I don't feel like I have the knowledge on the runoff of a roof to say with certainty, oh, there's absolutely a way you can do that. And so I'm not going to expect the applicant to come up with a solution that I simply believe might be possible, and I don't have the knowledge to make that conjecture.
Commissioner Briggs, let's say we were to disapprove it, would you be opposed to approving it without prejudice to where maybe if he figured out a way he could modify it and it was less, or maybe he figures out a way to do it, that he could come back sooner rather than later?
You're saying less than 2 inches?
I don't know how we can get, I don't know how we can get.
No, it's one,
Like,
it's
isn't that back
got
to the de minimis?
1'6".
Otherwise, he doesn't need to come back.
Yeah, isn't that back to the de minimis thing?
I
You're
know,
saying-
I
you're
know, I
saying,
always say
"Oh,
that.
this is too
If
much,"
there's a way to
but
do
if
it.
it was slightly closer, suddenly you'd be okay with it.
I
Well, it's
know.
the same problem, you're just using a different de minimis standard.
No, I got you. I got you. You're right, you're right.
It's still the same issue at heart.
Yeah, We'll accept 1.2 feet, but not 1.5.
Right, at that point, it's de minimis.
1'6"
Same.
inches at the farthest point of the 13-foot 1-inch wedge,
Right.
right? That's technically where it is. I think I'm good.
I'm ready to go.
Commissioner Briggs, ready to vote, sir?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Ready to vote? You can vote, sir? All right. Okay. All those in favor of approving application Z-25-11, and that's Mr. Richard Solsa and Lillian Vecchioli? Vecchioli residents, thank you very much. And that is for horizontal extension of roof overhang corner. And that is, required dimension is 10 feet. And I have proposed dimension is 8.5 feet of roof overhang. So the variance requested would be 1.5 feet or 1'6" inches. And that is Article 1-6 and 3.5. I'd like to take that motion, approve as it is. Say aye, all those in favor. Aye. All those opposed say nay.
Nay.
Okay, the motion passes, it is 4-1. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to our next application. And our final application. All right, I'd like to take a motion to approve application Z-25-12. That is the Eric Ketnan residence, 30 Brookfield Meadows. And that is request for variance to install a 12-by-24 shed on the property. And this is a structure to the left sideline. Required dimension is 30 feet. Proposed dimension is 15 feet. Variance requested is 15 feet, and that is regulation 3.5. I'd like to take a motion to approve as submitted, please.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
For me, based on the hardship that it was upzoned, and if it was properly zoned, the 15 feet is what is
Would be
the
required.
max allowable, yeah, then although I do think that there are some other options, but based on the fact that it was upzoned and 15 feet is the required dimension for if it was properly zoned, then I would still vote to approve.
Commissioner Rushmeyer?
Yeah, there's enough options available to make a change to either not need a zoning variance at all,
Need less.
or need less.
Commissioner
From what I understood, it was not upzoned, from what you said.
Oh,
He said it's always been R40. It's been non-compliant, but not.
well, it's R40, which is 40,000 square feet. He only has 27,878.
Right, so it's non-compliant, but I don't think the area was upzoned.
We can ask Mr. Lawley on that.
I don't know, I don't have that information. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, the applicant said it wasn't, said it was always.
I don't have that information, I'm sorry.
Oh, can't speak, sir. I mean, just looking at the math on it, Commissioner Rushmeyer, if you're in an R40, which technically means 40,000 square feet, and you only have 27,878.4, 0.64 of an acre, wouldn't it sometime have had to be upzoned, or otherwise it wouldn't be in the R40?
That's hard to say. It doesn't necessarily have to work that way, though.
So they'd have smaller lots and then just say, don't worry about it, make it an R40?
If
Well, they have been,
If that district was changed, then that's how that would happen.
There's a lot of properties in Brookfield that don't meet the R40 requirements. Kenwood Birches is one of them. I mean, they're what, 13,000?
Yeah.
You know,
The one we had in front of us
And
for
there are
Kenwood
R40s.
Birches, I believe, that
I mean,
Existing non-conforming upzone was one of the hardships on the property that we
Yeah.
had for
Yeah.
that. Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of properties, unfortunately. When they did the zoning regulations in 2018, they didn't look at the whole map. I mean, there should have been a lot of areas that were converted over to R15, you know? A lot
Sorry
of,
about that. Commissioner Briggs, please.
Well, I would just say that since we don't know, we can't, I wouldn't use the upzoning as a factor, since we don't know whether or not it was upzoned, to consider it. But in any case, I mean, I didn't want the property, but it just seemed to me, looking at it, there are options.
I think, yeah, like you were mentioning to him, could you move it over? I think, and I believe when we spoke to him, Mr. Getman said he could move it over at least 5 feet, which would lower the variance from 15 feet to 10 feet. That's what he said to me. So I know that's a possibility on it.
By moving it 5 feet, does that get him closer to the septic fields?
It's a little bit closer, but I still think he has a lot of room there. I kind of walked it, I could see where the septic cleanout was. I could kind of tell where the fields were. His well was plenty away from where the shed was, so that's nothing, way over 50.
Yeah, but again, I think there's plenty of room to wiggle it around.
Yeah, I mean, there's at least 5 feet, no problem at all. I mean, would anybody?
And it looks like you could move it south, depending upon, you said it was 50 feet
I
between
don't think
the
the
well
downslope
and
is that much there either.
So that gives.
I mean, you don't want to get too close to being in front of the house. So
Right.
let me pull out the map and look at it. So as I had it, I'll show you. He's up here and his well's way down here. His well was, I actually walked it, so I'm pretty close. It's about 93 feet off the front. And you've got another 80, 90 feet going up to here, to where the front of the shed is. It's got 30 feet to the back, but he does have a very unique shaped property because it comes back in that triangle.
All right.
And you can see there was a bunch of, literally right on the property line, there was a bunch of little bushes, if anybody drove by it, that went right like up the property line. You could see where the property line was pretty good there.
Mhm.
But, I mean, I kinda still do think it's been upzoned somewhere, because it's just a much smaller piece of property. It's the 12,000 and change smaller than what it's supposed to be. But the only other hardship I really see on it is the unique shape of property. There's no real topography issues.
Right.
But it is a unique shape of property. I think I'm okay with it if he shortens the variance on it due to the unique shape of property. But I'm not okay with it if it's at 15 feet. So I would be okay with a stipulation, if anybody would be opposed to that, or how does everybody feel? And he said himself, he can move it another 5.
I mean, I'm okay with it at either distance. I think that, like we said, there could be upzoning. There's definitely a unique shape of the property for hardships. And while 15 feet does require a variance for this R zone, I do think that a 15-foot setback is a reasonable setback given the size of the property based on the regulations the zoning commission
Yeah.
has put. Setbacks are set based on property's size, and ultimately with a property size of, what was it?
27,878.
Yeah, about 28,000, you're looking at, according to zoning regulations, a 15-foot setback. So I think 15 feet from the property line is a reasonable ask.
Okay, so you're okay either way?
I'm okay either way.
If I were to put a stipulation on it, for a 10-foot rather than a 15-foot, would you be okay with that, Commissioner Briggs? Because he said he could shorten it, and I know that if we do find a hardship, it should be the smallest variance possible.
I mean, I'm a little torn because, again, I saw the property, but I didn't walk it, so.
Yeah, I walked it, and I drove the whole neighborhood, lots of people have sheds and stuff there, so it's in harmony with the area, with the neighborhood, it's not out of harmony, in my opinion. I just think he can bring it, I could bring it a little bit away towards the south and the east, like you were kind of looking at before. And he did say he can move it, he can move it 5 feet. If he didn't, I'd think about it differently. But I'm okay with a 10-foot variance. is what
So
I'm
are you
saying.
saying you're not okay with 15 feet, but you're okay with 10 feet?
Well, I think I'm okay with that because it's a small, he did agree that it would be no problem at all moving it. And I do see the unique shape of property, so there is a hardship on the property. I just asked him the question on it because I thought that he could move when I was out there looking at it. I didn't think it was getting too close to the septic or to the well or anything like that. And it would give a little bit more space between a neighbor and properties, even though if you went back there, I don't know, it's kind of like a junk pile, everybody throws their stuff in the back and the weeds and stuff in that back corner over there.
How
Put it
much,
back- backs it away.
how much distance is there between the proposed shed and the current shed?
That's a good question. I did not measure that.
In a ballpark, how close is that shed to the nearest neighbor?
This one right here? Well, he's got this neighbor over here. There's a neighbor in the back, but he's far. That's he's gotta be a couple hundred feet to the north and the east. That's that neighbor. This gentleman's house here, he's gotta be 100-something feet away. You know, the neighbor to the west of him. And it's
The
on the opposite
variance
side of
goes with the property.
Right, right. That's why, I mean, I do see it, but I think it could have a little more distance between the property line, and he didn't have a problem with it. That's why I said I would be okay with 10, because we're making it a little bit smaller and giving a little more room there. Is everybody okay if I made a stipulation? Right. I move to stipulate the variance for application Z-25-12 from the proposed variance of 15 feet down to 10 feet. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion?
Could make it 20 feet.
Oh, you mean move it even farther?
Yeah.
Move it another 5?
It looks like there's plenty of room.
And the only thing is we didn't ask during the public hearing if that was okay with the applicant or not. I mean,
Just set the stipulation. I mean, it's a closed deliberation, made the decision to grant it for 5 feet instead of 15.
instead of 15. I mean, there is room there. The only part I worry about, because I didn't have the septic as-built, I don't know if they have one, is I don't want to get too close. If you even were close, it would be a field.
Correct,
And it's a shed, so it's on
It's-
gravel or stone. It's not going to affect anything?
technically.
Okay, I'd like to,
The line between the two sheds, I'm assuming there's no leaching field or septic in that area. That's.
I don't know exactly without looking into septic as-built. I know 5 feet, I didn't feel that there was anything
The
there.
applicant said they didn't want the shed to be too close, because then there's gonna be an issue getting things in
Right.
and out.
Yeah,
When you're asking about how close can we get this shed to the
moving
existing
it
shed.
close. Yeah.
I mean, you didn't want interference in opening the doors of the two, but you'd have to be pretty close for that to be a factor.
Well, and getting things in and out. They mentioned a
Tractor.
tractor,
Right.
so
If
you
you
need
have, like-
more space than opening the doors. You need
Right. If you
space
had
to
like
move
20
Yeah, did we get a
feet-
picture of it? Was it one of those double door? I don't see a picture.
Turn the cube, it's a box, turn it in a different direction. I mean, you know, yeah, change the access from shed to shed to a different position. I just, in my mind, there's just too many ways around this.
I mean, I'm okay with a 10, but if you're more comfortable with those 5 foot, if you'd like to amend my stipulation, I'm okay with that too, sir.
Um, I don't know, I think I'd rather oppose it and have them without prejudice, and maybe have them come back with another proposal?
Can do that.
Yeah, I think that would be my preference.
Okay. Everybody ready to vote?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If anybody is gonna oppose it, just say without prejudice. Okay. All right. We already have the motion on the table, and that was my stipulation,
So the-
and dropping it from a
So the current,
15 to a 10.
yeah, so the current vote is for approval at 10 feet.
Approval at 10, yes. Okay, that's the stipulation,
That is the current.
10 foot, okay. Everybody knows that, right? All right, here we go. All those in favor of approving application Z-25-12, that's the Eric Kettner residence, 30 Brookfield Meadows, that is request for variance to install a 12 by 24 shed on the property, with the stipulation, dropping the variance request from 15 feet to 10 feet. Say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay without
Nay.
prejudice?
Nay without prejudice.
Nay without prejudice? Okay. The motion fails, but it's a nay without prejudice. Mr. Raleigh can explain that to you, sir. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for coming. And that was 3-2. 3-2. Okay. All right, moving on. Old business, there is none. New business, this is discussion, draft, continued discussion, again, draft fee schedule. Did everybody get the Attorney Beecher letter and have a chance to read through it? Did you get Attorney Beecher's letter?
I did, but I didn't get a chance to read through it.
It's long, but I'll tell you what, I'll just read his last
You have,
sentence.
read the end of it.
The very end. It's the, do you have a copy of that in front of you, by any chance?
I got it somewhere.
I have it somewhere.
Give me a second.
Yeah, it was long because he had the whole Supreme Court case in it. Thank you, Mr. Secretary. All right, he includes the Supreme Court, I'll do the beginning. As your request, this is, hi Alan, as a request, I'm following up regarding this matter. It's given that it's a given that the News Time qualifies as a newspaper having a general substantial circulation within the town of Brookfield for purpose of the various statutes governing legal notices and land use matters. The question is whether the Milford Spectrum would qualify as taken from the Connecticut Supreme Court's Pipitog decision that I forwarded to you, and then he gives the whole decision here. But the ending part of it, okay, his take on it is, if the town makes a reasonably objective determination, not solely based upon the cost to advertise, that the New Milford Spectrum passes this test enunciated by the Connecticut Supreme Court, then it would be safe place to place legal notices in the Milford Spectrum. And they have the legal test in there, different various things on it, we can go over it, but I think Vice Chairman has a motion. Well, if there's any other, yeah, does anybody have any further discussion on that?
I only had a comment, which was adding the legal notices to the website,
Town
which are
website.
showing up.
Yep,
That gives an additional way for people
Absolutely.
to do it. So we're really expanding the availability of the legal notice already.
yeah, we're making it more available and bringing it up to date with the
And
21st
fewer and
century.
fewer people subscribe to the News Times.
Yeah, if you read the Supreme Court decision on there, and he was trying to basically figure out the legislature's intent, and in his opinion, it would be the intent of them to think forward and to have different ways for smaller towns, just like us, to bring things into the 21st century and make it easier for people to get, such as adding it to the town website. Click, click, you're looking at a legal notice. And then a bunch of other stuff in that Supreme Court thing too.
So the basic idea being by switching to a different newspaper, we can lower the legal notice costs such that we don't need to raise the costs of the applicants and still be self-sufficient with what it costs us to have the meeting versus what the applicants have to pay.
There's quite a few reasons.
Yeah, well, that's But, I mean, that's the gist of why we're discussing this now,
Mhm.
given the draft fee schedule. If we lower the costs of legal notices, we don't need to increase the fee to the applicants.
Yes, or if we did a little bit, it's not nearly as much as we would have had to,
Right.
you know, because they haven't been updated in 21 years.
Right, because I think that's the key, at least for me, the key ingredient here is making sure that the taxpayers of Brookfield are not subsidizing applications. Because at the moment, our current fee versus the cost of legal notices means it actually costs the town money every time an application is submitted, because we spend more money, we give more money to the News Times than the applicant pays to have
The
their
current
application
vendor, yeah.
heard. So it's costing us money right now.
That we didn't even.
So we're opposed or in favor of a hike in the cost of the application?
Well, I'm proposing that we change what newspaper we send the legal notices to something that's cheaper than the News Times, because the News Times is charging us on average $91, I think was the last.
No, it's
count.
98 and change.
98.
It's $100 each. It's
Per
$300
legal notice.
right off the get-go. 2 before and 1 after. So we've been,
So if we switch to a cheaper newspaper like the New Milford Spectrum, we can get the cost down substantially.
You really don't wanna ask me this question. Cause I tell them they gotta pay for the entire cost of the application, but that's, if it's $300 to advertise it in the paper, then you gotta pay the $300. I don't care what, you're,
I'm saying we can use a cheaper paper.
I don't disagree that if we can find a newspaper to do it for less money, that's fine.
yeah, if it's,
But still, I
Yeah.
mean, you've gotta
Oh,
increase,
absolutely.
the cost of the town municipality to operate continues to go up.
Yeah.
Passing that burden to the applicant, I don't think is unreasonable.
Well, I
Right,
don't
well,
think
you're in
either.
agreement.
oh, I don't think so.
Yeah,
we're all in
either. I just
agreement
think
on
if
that.
it's less of a burden that you have to pass on.
I agree.
It's better.
I
That's
agree.
what I think.
Right.
So do we know, I know you've done a lot of research on this, do we know what the other newspapers would charge, or what the average costs
The only,
are?
the only two that I know of, okay, and I believe we can make a phone call and negotiate it, especially if you were making it to our current vendor and
Mhm.
we were thinking about switching. But the Milford Spectrum is 50, so it's half the price, 50%. New Milford B is 50 for up to a 3-inch, and then it's 45. They said if it's smaller than, I don't know how many inches ours is, but it's 45 if it's smaller than that. So they're roughly both half the price of what it is now.
What about the Newtown B?
That was the Newtown B.
Yeah, he
That
was
the last one.
speaking of the new town.
Newtown B is, up to a 3-inch is 50, smaller than that's 45. That's what they told me over the phone. But they're both half the
I think we
price.
should change vendors and still increase the cost of them.
My only concern on that is, I mean, you got wetlands and you got zoning too.
Right.
Mhm.
So you, well, I mean, everybody's gotta go on board or forget it.
Right,
Right.
Because the offices are gonna wanna do one here, then
Right.
one here.
Yeah.
right,
But I think-
everybody would have to be on
I think we
board,
could
so.
at least
Everything.
start the ball rolling and then be able to negotiate with the vendors, is my opinion.
So how about?
Well, I would suggest that we make a suggestion to the Board of Selectmen that we change vendors
Yeah.
and let them throw it out there to the various boards and commissions that have to deal with it and make it and let them make the decision on it. You've done enough collecting the information, and then once we get that information back, should we need to change the fee schedule based on current costs to make sure that the applicants are covering the full cost? Well, at least we'll be dealing with numbers we know rather than a supposition.
The only other question I would have is to make sure that all the other departments are on board with changing vendors.
Well,
If in fact-
that would be up to the first selectman. We're only making a suggestion to the selectmen.
Well,
that they
technically
do
not how I read the law, and I understand exactly what you're saying. You want everybody to do it in one thing. But how I interpret the law, the statute that was brought to us, in order to set the fees, the only reason they would allow us to set the fees is to watch over how the money was spent, basically.
Right.
So it's really, I think
this.
it's.
So you think
up
it's in
to
the
us.
Board of Finance?
No, I think it's up to
in the
us.
ZBA to choose where the ZBA.
I get that,
Right.
but
The other people
Fran's-
can change and they
Fran's
can
point
follow.
is very, very valid.
Yeah, why not do it all together? I
Why not do
understand
it all
that.
together? So
Well-
that's why I'm asking that we make the suggestion that they contact the other boards and commissions, just as you said, and see if everybody can get on board with it, and then the town can negotiate as a group for a better fee.
Maybe when all three commissions come together, you get
Exactly.
a lower rate.
They'll get a lower rate, so I think it's better
I don't know.
if we make the suggestion to them.
So do we
I
want
think it's
to,
kicking the ball down the road, because I don't know how, what
I'm not
we're
talking
prepared to
about,
make a
we could,
decision, but I think.
well, you could say we have a date positive that we're gonna go with it if we don't hear back, but this is what we wanna do, and we
It's
feel
not a
like
bad,
we do
bad
it.
idea.
so we can,
Maybe forward a proposed motion to them
to the zoning commission.
and the Board of Selectmen.
Well, I was thinking the
Whoever
other
you want.
land, I was,
Oh,
I
just-
would send
Well,
it to
you
the
guys
Board of
can get
Selectmen
land
and
use.
copy the other
And you get inland and
commissioners.
wetlands, and who else, Fred?
Zoning.
Zoning.
Well, you could say, we're making this change as per your belief that it's really our decision to make and our responsibility. We're making this change, as you're saying, you say we're making this change by such and such a date.
We're proposing this change,
Well,
right?
Yeah,
you
what-
could say, well, they're two different
You
things.
wanna read it, or
One
I'll
is-
read the proposed one, we won't make the motion, but we'll read it out loud.
Let me just finish.
Read it.
I mean, if you wanna just make the decision, then we just make the decision, and we let them know we made the decision, and then it's up to them to
We could do
decide
that.
if they wanna join us. Otherwise, you're gonna get involved in a much longer process. of
That's what
trying
I was
to
thinking.
coordinate everybody. Obviously, it's desirable to have everybody, making the announcement in the same, through the
Yeah.
same vendor, because then people will get used to that site. So it's a desirable thing, but whether whether we just wanna say, this is what we're doing,
Mhm.
join us if you like, we're gonna do it by such and such a date, or do we say, you know, let's
so what if
everybody
we,
coordinate this?
so what if we make a motion to authorize the land use office to, discuss, seek out
Yeah, in
these other
consultation
vendors,
with- yeah,
consult
right.
with these other vendors. The
Right.
motion
And-
is
and
not
come
to
back to
change
us.
vendors, but to consult with vendors, and we send that motion or notice of that motion to the other, to the zoning
Yeah.
commission and to the inland wetlands, to
Right.
make them aware that we are doing this for ours, you guys
You
might
guys
want
can
to
get on board,
get
and it
on
might be a
board
better
with
deal.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
then
still think the
nothing's-
final say is gonna come down to the Board of Selectmen, because, I mean, they may say no, you know, I mean, I don't know.
We could still change it.
What about other?
In my, in my take on what Attorney Beecher said, in my reading of the statute,
You think that we have the authority? to
absolutely,
change
absolutely.
What about other legal notices from other boards, like if there's a town meeting or
I
a
think
referendum?
they should all have theirs on the, sooner or later, everybody's gonna have them on the
That
town
was
website.
the main reason I wanted to go through the Board of Selectmen, was because this way, the whole town could get on board, and instead of saving, $3,000, maybe they're gonna save $30,000 if they can do the
Oh,
whole
I
thing.
totally agree.
Yeah.
But if they see our reasons for wanting to change it, via a motion on this, and that we're willing to and want to change it and negotiate it, I think that they'll say, oh, you know what, that's a great idea, let's do it, hopefully that
But I'd
does.
still like to see a letter, even if it's an advisory letter to the Board of Selectmen,
Yeah.
that this is our intention, just so that could kind of be a kickoff for them to move forward with the other groups.
Why don't we make the motion and write a letter to them? We'll draft up a letter with the secretary,
So draft up a letter to send to the Board of
but I'd
Selectmen.
still make the motion.
And also make a motion just to authorize the
The
land
land
use
use,
office
right.
to consult with other, media vendors
Right.
for legal notices.
So we could
It's
also
nothing-
authorize them to make the change.
Yeah, well.
Well, though
with-
we'd have to make the
You
change.
know what,
We'd
Yeah,
have to
with-
approve
We're
it.
going to
Yeah.
pass this around, just let them read
We'd
it,
have to approve it.
because it has an explanation on
Well,
it.
yeah, that's not what we're going with.
No, well,
This is a.
something like that.
A draft.
This was a
mo-
draft?
A draft of.
This is a draft, but we can change
That
it
gives some
to
reasoning.
consultation. But it's, like Attorney Beecher's letter said, you gotta have there is 5 reasons on there, and it can't be just the financial reason, which I don't believe it is.
I think we could also just do like Larry suggested and change the fee so that it covers the current cost, and then continue the discussion about changing to the Newtown B or wherever, and then it's just, there's more savings for the town, but we're still.
But then we'd have to
making
come back
Come
and
back for
rechange
what?
it again.
sure- Why?
What do you mean?
Why would
Well, we wouldn't have to
Well, if we
change
could
it.
save 50% somewhere else.
Keep it,
Yeah, keep it.
pass it on to the
The
town.
costs are gonna go up anyway.
Yeah,
They're not going down.
we're
Everything
giving
goes
it
up.
back.
Nothing goes down.
So eventually that cost will catch up to
Do
where
you
we
know
are
what eggs
anyway.
cost?
Well, actually, I do. Are you ready? $4.34 if you get them at BJ's at the triple dozen pack.
Is that for the record?
Yeah, that's for the record. That's what I just paid over the weekend. It was $12 and change, but it's like
So-
$4.34. They're starting to come down.
So do we want to?
You own a small business, you should know what costs going up.
Oh, I know. No, I know. I know.
So do we want to right now agree on a fee increase for the application?
I'd like to change it and then look at it. And I know there is a fee increase needed, but I'd like to study it a little bit more after we knew that we had the savings. I don't wanna always have to pass it on. Maybe I'm being frugal or whatever, but I don't wanna always have to pass it on, everything, the entire $300, each application, to everybody. If we didn't absolutely have to. If it was $150 rather than $300, I'd feel a lot better about it.
Only good
That's
thing
just
is
me
maybe
personally.
you'll deter people from doing variances.
What's that?
Maybe you'll deter.
Well, Carl spoke to that before. It isn't like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
especially appeals of CEOs, we don't get a whole lot of them
You
either.
come in and you
That's
wanna put
Monroe's theory.
your shed wherever you want it, cause you want it for convenience.
$675.
You think it would
You're
cost
not
you
gonna get
$300.
many.
Oh, you know what, I
They're doing-
can
they're doing illegally.
Yeah.
to where it should be. I mean, the more the better, I think. It's better for the town long term.
No, I
Let them
understand.
pay for the whole thing.
Let's at least authorize them
Or
to do
continue
it.
to the next meeting.
Or we can continue it
I
and
think
think
we
about
should
it some more.
continue it. It's getting
Okay.
late.
All right.
Okay.
Everybody on it? All right, we'll just continue it. Mr.
Well, I continue a price increase.
No,
I'd like
I'd
to
say
add-
continue discussion on relocating and moving it and the reasons why and a price increase,
That's,
everything.
and I would suggest, rather than
Draft a
continuing
letter?
everything, at least contact the first selectman and get the other boards and commissions on board, because we can have them on board by the next meeting.
Would
and we can
everybody
make a
be
decision.
okay? Yeah, would everybody be okay?
I don't see any reason to
No,
wait.
that's a
But
great
we-
idea.
But we did start that, and the first selectman was lost from the beginning.
Yeah,
don't
I
if it
know,
was-
we
don't
tried
if
to
it
have
was-
him in
I
the
don't know if it was
thing.
the chart or what, so that's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
it's not a bad idea, but we're essentially looking at like fall for an actual decision at this point.
Well, but I'm talking about not changing the fees and talking about changing the fees with the selectmen.
So you
The
actually
only thing we're going to the
his office and
selectmen
sat
with.
down and
No.
No, we sent an email.
The only thing I wanna go
And
to
then
the
he was like
selectmen
kinda
with.
confused, right? Sort of?
Well, this was also before,
Before we got anything back
No,
from
it was
Attorney
before-
Beecher, the last
It was
one.
What about
before the
knocking on
Board
the
of
door and
Selectmen
sitting
met
down
with the land use office.
It's not a bad idea.
I'm proposing we go to the Board of
Why
Select.
not sit down with the Board of Selectmen?
Yeah, I'm
and
only
have a
proposing we go to
conversation?
them about changing the
I think
the
that's a
legal
great idea.
notice. That's all, not about the fees.
No, I think that's a great
Do we also
idea.
want to authorize the land use office to?
To investigate.
Yeah.
Okay.
with
Yeah,
the
I'd like
others.
to,
If
I'd
we
like to
do those
authorize
two
them to
forks,
call.
we might have answers by the next meeting.
What about passing on yeah, why even bother, to the other boards and commissions,
Well, if we authorize the
Possible
land use
motion.
if we authorize the land use office,
yeah, let's get the land use office a
land use
copy of this,
office,
because
this
you have
is
to
our
have, if you,
proposal.
if I read Attorney Beecher's, there's gotta be another reason, it can't be that, and I
Right.
think there is at least 5
Well,
reasons.
why not,
to switch it.
why not authorize the land use office, send copies of that authorization
Mm.
to the other commissions and to the select people?
Right,
Yes.
So-
that's what we wanna do.
Okay.
Why
That's what I'm proposing.
Good. So then, we get that done.
It's gonna save us a month at least.
Wanna make a motion to authorize that? You wanna
Sure,
word that correctly, then I'll
I can
second it.
try.
Wouldn't this also be a discussion with the purchasing manager for the town, Julian Capados, because he probably deals with this
Well,
directly.
that, we get, if we're giving it to the selectmen, they can decide how
That's
they
who's,
wanna handle
that's who's
it
gonna
with
sign
them.
on that.
That's where it would get down in that way, but it's up to them to decide whether they wanna authorize him to do that.
But I'd also like, when we give them the authorization, at least give them the draft copy of this, because this has the 5 main
Yeah.
reasons
Yeah, yeah.
why we wanna do it. If
With
you-
a copy of the
Did you read
attorney's
that?
letter.
Did you read that, Larry?
You can just modify it.
Yeah, at least you can, yeah, and you can always modify it.
Right.
Modify.
The authorized land use on the consultation with the chairman, the
We don't have to do it now, if Carl, who's gonna draft the letter? So
No,
we can
secretary.
authorize you to just
Well, letter or motion?
motion.
We have a motion ready, but.
Well, but this
it
is
can be
not-
tweaked. Yeah, right, it can be tweaked.
Well, the motion doesn't have to have all those
It would only-
details
It would only
Yeah.
take like.
But I think you should
couple
have the
minutes
reasonings in
to
it.
change the letter.
in the motion.
Absolutely, because of what he wrote in the last part of this. It
Okay.
says, if the town.
Yeah, no, you don't have to
But
read
This
it
is
again,
not
I
the,
know.
but this is not the final decision, this is
Right.
just a motion for consultation.
This is a
It
motion
doesn't
for
need all the
consultation.
reasons,
I don't
Because
think
we're
it
not
needs
making the
everything.
change.
I think
But
what
that's
we're
the first question the
authorizing,
Board of Selectmen is gonna ask, what's the reasoning behind it? And
right,
then we talk to Attorney Beecher, that's the first question they're gonna ask.
right, but we send a copy of the attorney's letter along with the draft of what the motion would be for the various boards and commissions
Okay.
to do this.
And in the meantime,
in the
authorized
meantime-
land use office, Randy, whoever,
Exactly.
they can make some phone calls and see if they can
We
negotiate.
might have everything decided by the time we come back next month, and we can raise the fees. If we don't, if we just put it off to next month, we're gonna be right where we are today.
Okay.
Go ahead, make that motion, I'll
I'll
second it.
try. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the land use office to consult with, what should I say, various,
Boards and commissions.
Yeah,
well, and various boards and commissions and media outlets for the purpose of,
renegotiating, possibly changing vendors, right?
yes.
For legal notices.
Yes, for the legal notices required.
Right.
But I would
For the
also
ZBA.
include the five reasons, because that's the first question they're gonna ask.
We're not,
Why?
we're just doing the consultation.
Okay,
You know, the 5 reasons are gonna need there when we change.
gotcha.
That's when you need the 5 reasons. We're not doing the
I
change
made my
now.
motion.
I
I
second,
made my motion.
I second.
Did you get
Is the
enough of that?
motion-
It sounds like a motion.
I have a timestamp so I can go through it again.
Can I,
Okay.
should I remake the motion? Is the motion?
Well,
clear?
I think we need,
Okay.
Cassandra to read it back to us on what,
Okay.
where
Okay.
we are.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let-
kinda messed up.
Sorry, let
Can you do it
me
one more time?
let me try the motion again. I'd like to make a motion to authorize the land use office to consult with,
Wetlands and zoning.
in consultation with wetlands and zoning commissions
Mhm.
to discuss and consult with various media outlets.
Such
the-
as the Milford Spectrum.
The
Newtown.
possibility of changing the vendor for our legal notices.
At the risk of keeping this going indefinitely, I would personally would leave out the consultation with the other commissions and just say, we authorize them to investigate
The land use office.
our interest in changing vendors for legal notifications with media such as the Newtown Bee or the New Milford, and then,
Spectrum, yeah.
Okay, that's
and then they
fair.
can
So-
add to that.
Yeah, so just authorize the land use office.
Okay, so
Right.
Gotcha.
starting over again, since there was no second on
Amend-
that.
amend the
Third
motion.
time's a charm.
Since there was no second for that, starting over
I'll get
again.
it.
Right.
I'll get one of these now.
I would like to make a motion to authorize the land use office to consult with the various media outlets such as the
Milford
Newtown Bee
Spectrum.
and New Milford Spectrum
As
Possibly
possible vendors.
as possible
for our
vendors
legal
for
notices.
the zoning board of appeals legal notices.
I'll second that motion, that sounded good.
Okay, is that a good enough motion?
Any
with
further
interjections?
discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That is unanimous.
Could you repeat, I'm sorry, could you repeat like anything after media outlets one more
The
time?
various media outlets
Such
such
as-
as the Newtown Bee
Milford Spectrum.
or the New Milford Spectrum as examples. And what the first part said, just read it back to me so I can
Fran,
know what it
Just
is.
You wanna keep that copy?
Office to consult with various media outlets.
Just so he knows if they say,
The
well,
new
that's so
town would
reasonable.
be,
What did
for
Beach's
example,
letter
the
say?
new
It
town
could
be
say,
Milford
these are
Spectrum
the
for
5
the
reasons we
purpose
came up
of,
I just think if we wanna do
Legal
something.
notice.
for the purpose of, zoning board of
Publishing
appeal,
legal
publishing
notice.
zoning board of
Fee
appeal
schedule
legal
again.
notices.
Raise them up, yeah,
Just.
and then come back, and we could always
Have
hold them. or whatever.
Oh,
the
yeah.
schedule sent out
Yeah.
before the May fifth
It's on the recording,
meeting.
so you
Say, I won't, I didn't
Yeah,
catch
I have
that.
it
The fee
recorded, so I
schedule.
can go through.
Send
each.
out
I have time.
before the May fifth.
That was a
meeting.
hassle.
And then just look at that. And if,
The new proposed fee schedule, you mean?
well, we don't have a new proposal.
Well, we have a
The
new
old
draft, we have a draft, well, the old draft one.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean make up a new one before the next meeting? Is that
No,
what you're
not
saying?
make up
Oh.
a new one. I'm saying, send out what we currently charge. I know we have this because.
Yeah, the
got
old-
it-
yeah,
got
we
it
have
like
it.
2 or 3 months ago. But send that out again, and then we can just raise the fees, well, if we agree.
Mhm.
We can discuss the fees because we don't need the other boards or anything for
Right.
that.
Right,
I think it's a great idea to change the newspapers and
If we
save
can.
and save money and other things. But I think we can change the fees now to make sure that every time that somebody comes before us, we're not losing money
Right.
for the town. We can do that,
Yeah.
we can do that next month and have that in place probably by June.
Yeah.
This
And if we do
whole
happen to
newspaper-
save-
the
I
newspaper-
second
This is
that.
gonna take, yeah, that's gonna
the
take.
Raise-
some
newspaper
time.
thing's gonna-
Raise the fees and for the period, and then all of this falls into play when it falls into play.
Right.
so you wanna
This
bring,
is all politics. No. we
Yeah,
don't
if
need-
you cover
we don't
the
need a
current
motion.
costs,
We don't need a
then-
motion.
then-
It's just, if we could just, if
Next
we
meeting
can get
you vote
the
on it.
current fee schedule again sent out, I
Yeah,
know
well,
it
the
was.
current
sent
and
out.
the draft, right? You want the current and the draft? No one?
Sure.
Just
Can we-
whatever.
you
So
mind-
we have, in case anyone lost their copy.
Yeah, in case they were lost. I do have mine, I have it somewhere, Fran. And then we can re-go over that again. I have a copy, you don't have to do, remember the ones from the other towns? I have a copy of that, so
Yeah.
I don't think you have to do that.
So next meeting, we can discuss, we
Yeah,
can
we'll go
vote
over it
on
some
raising
more.
the fees.
Okay, your favorite motion, Mr. Vice Chairman?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
I had one other question.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
It's a quick
Informal
one.
discussion.
Is there any way we can find someone who has an old zoning?
Oh, yeah.
Old zoning?
That,
That's the historical.
before the last zoning.
Yeah, probably land records.
If
You
we can get a copy of that, that will help us in the situation
Seeing if
with
it's up-
the,
upzoning?
such as the upzone we had today with the R40, to see if it really was an upzone. To Larry's point, it might have been that way from day one. Now, if you look at some of those properties in there, some of them are a half acre, less than a half acre. So it seems a little absurd to be an R40, but it would be very helpful for us if we could go back to this, at least to the one before this last change. If we had that map, we could just flip to that map and say, oh yeah, that was an
That is in,
R15.
is it tax assessor's office? I know the historic district is working with, is it the assessor's office
Yeah.
to get the map updated?
I mean, somebody's gotta have a
This map
copy,
is
an
gonna
old
be,
person.
no,
on
this
it.
is map right here is gonna be old pretty soon.
Could we have this
Historic
map
has their own map,
conversation
this is
Yeah.
a zoning map.
Yeah.
So you want a zoning map?
Yeah,
You made a
somebody
motion,
from the
right?
old
Yes.
zoning.
You made a second? All those in favor?
I got a
Somebody.
copy.
Aye,
End of meeting.
You have an idea.
I,